How do you pronounce your name?
Me?
No, Racing. We brought him up.
Right.
Wraith Knight. You can call me Wraith if you want.
Wraith, you know what else is a claim? You said the Bible is just a claim. Do you know what else is just a claim? Your claim that the Bible is just a claim unless you can defend it. So do you want to tell me how it is that the revelation of God is false? Can you defend your claim?
I can
Or
tell
was
you
that
why
just
it
a claim, a
doesn't.
vacuous statement?
I mean, I can tell you why it doesn't convince me.
Whether your mental state has no
Yeah.
bearing on what is actually the case. So I didn't ask whether or not you're convinced.
On
Okay,
its
there's
own,
people that believe the earth is flat. They're not convinced it's round.
that's just
So
bloviating
what?
your.
So again, you made a claim that the Bible is just a claim. And so I'm wondering if you're able to defend that claim that you made, that positive assertion. Go ahead.
So are you asking why I'm an atheist? Because
No,
if you're talking about my mental
On
state,
the Bible.
sorry, hold on. Then my atheism is, hold on one second. Then my atheism is based on my mental state.
Yet you made a claim that the Bible is just a claim. And I'm asking you to defend your claim. And your response was that you're not convinced. But I didn't ask you if you were convinced. So that's the third time I've repeated that. I've been very clear what I'm looking for. Can you defend your statement that the Bible is just a claim as opposed to the revealed Word of God?
No, I can't.
Okay. So it turns out that you're the one who's just making a claim.
Well, everything I say would be a claim. The evidence that would back it up would be other details.
Like what? External standards you bring to the Bible, which isn't even on the Bible's own basis.
Yeah, is there a standard? If it is the case that God is God, what would be a higher standard than that?
What would it be, Rafe?
Well, if there is a God, then God would be the highest standard, and I don't have a problem with that.
That's right.
Okay.
It's revelation taken on its own basis, correct?
So
But
that's why
that's
your
a pretty
objection
high if
fails.
to meet, and that's going to be a subjective standard for the individual.
Meet what standard then? You said to meet. You already said he's the
Right.
highest.
To be what convinces someone that that is the case.
Not to you
Now
to
you're confusing you're confusing proof with persuasion. Matt, your microphone's cutting out.
Okay.
I'm not
Well,
trying to interrupt you.
I'll try restarting, see if it's Clubhouse acting up.
Okay.
It's the goggles.
No, it's been doing it on that basis. It's just blipping out occasionally, so it's finicky. I'll be right back.
Oh yeah, I definitely think there's some overlap with persuasion and proof.
Yeah. So I'm waiting.
I'm not sure what your question is then.
No, I'm waiting for you to defend any of the things that you said in chat. You made some objections. We showed you how those didn't work. You said the Bible is just a claim, but you weren't able to defend that. So I'm just wondering maybe if there's a single thing that you can defend, maybe anything.
No,
Or anything that you could know at all.
Well, the point of clarification would be, what authority are you wielding, Wraith? Is that a clear-cut question? What ultimate authority are you wielding? You know which one we are.
None whatsoever. Nor did I claim that I had any.
And saying God doesn't meet this certain standard. You're obviously wielding something. Come on, dude. You're totally backtracking for what you're wielding before. I go, you're sitting there wielding this sword around this standard that God has to meet. And then when I ask the question, well, what sword are you wielding? Ultimate authority. Oh, none. Is that retraction or blatantly denying what you've just been asserting?
No, I think you're confused by what I meant.
No,
So God himself is the standard if he exists. But what convinces an individual that he is that standard is going to be subjective, because
no,
what convinces
it's
you is going to be different than what convinces
that's
me.
not what Romans 1 says.
Yeah,
I know.
that's right.
You're not even dealing with the Bible on its own terms to one iota. You're not even looking at what the claims. Even if you said, "What's merely a claim?" I go, at least deal with that claim, because Romans 1's very clear. It doesn't say, "Well, there's some external persuasion here that needs to be done." He goes, "No, it's on God, the ontology of man, self-revelation of God, its innate knowledge. They're without excuse for the sin against them." That's universally applied. Romans 1, 2, and 3. If you just deal with it on its own terms to a scintilla of what it says. You're just making this grand assertion, not even dealing with the content of what is laid out there before you wield this external critique. And you are wielding the external critique standard. It's got to be proven by some lower standard. Wait, you don't even understand what the nature of an ultimate authority is then. Oh, see, the ultimate standard must be proven by one of these lower standards by which it undergirds. I go, no, that's not even the way it works. That's the very grounding for how you have these lower standards of evidence and whatever you want to assert or whatever. You're taking a lower and then trying to judge the greater by it. You have it backwards. The nature of the ultimate authority is on its own self-attesting authority. That's what makes it an ultimate standard by definition, correct? It's not proven by a subset by which it undergirds. It's the necessary precondition for those subset authorities. Is that correct?
Well,
Why
the
are you
problem
arguing?
is I look at the Bible as just a regular book like any other book. So I read through it and I examine it as a whole.
That's an external critique.
And I can only use myself for that.
Wraith.
Because I don't have God to...
In the other side of the page. That's an external critique, bro. The Bible's not going to capitulate to your standard on your side.
So you think that the Bible, as a composite worldview, is dispensable. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Either the Bible, as the Christian worldview, is indispensable as a basis for reason. That is the worldview. Either the biblical worldview, as represented by the Christian scriptures, is indispensable, or it is dispensable. If it's a mere human book, then it could be dispensable. On the other hand, if it is the revealed word of God about himself and how this world is, then within that scenario, it would be indispensable. So you've decided that the Bible as a mere human book is dispensable. That worldview is dispensable. You can do without it. Would that correctly summarize your position?
So I agree that those are the two sides of the coin, and I am skeptical of the claims of the Bible. So yeah.
Okay. So it's dispensable. Okay. So can you tell me, since the biblical worldview, including that it is a revelation of God about who he is and how this world operates, is dispensable, then that means that you're operating from another worldview contextually in order to reason about anything and everything. So what is it that is fundamental in your worldview that dictates what is and what is not, that is indispensable? What is your worldview, and what fundamentally provides you with the ability to reason?
So I don't know that God doesn't exist, and he may very well.
That's not an
I
answer to
don't
my
have
question.
an answer to your
You are not.
question. I don't. I don't know the answer to that question
Okay.
if there is one.
So you are claiming to reason without a basis. Is
without
that correct? You have no fundamental basis as to why reason exists at all, do you?
No, but it's worked so far. And just because I don't
Okay.
know
Well,
what undergirds it, I'm okay with that. It's not
that's
begging the
begging the
question.
question.
It might
Yeah,
be
it
a
is big.
fallacy from ignorance.
When you say that it's working, you're begging the question implicitly that there's some fundamental basis in our world that instantiates reason. Now, when you say reason works, is there a fundamental basis that instantiates reason?
I don't know. So far, my
Okay, well
brain has
then
allowed
you
me to
can't say
reason, and it could
that it
be a
works.
fallacy from ignorance, but
No,
that's
no,
sort of where I'm stuck.
no. When you say that it works, you're begging the question. Okay? So the
Okay,
point
yeah,
is,
I
you're
agree.
saying that
And
you're unconvinced of God's existence and you're unconvinced as to the divine inspiration of the Christian scriptures. What convinced you that the world around you has the fundamental parameter that will provide you for reason? What convinced you? Because I want to see if you follow your
it's gonna
own
end up being
standard.
circular. It's gonna be circular, and I'm gonna have to presuppose it.
No, 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 no. I'm asking you,
No, I am answering. That's the
do
answer.
you
I know
do
what
you
you're
have
asking.
okay, is there a fundamental parameter of existence that instantiates what is?
I don't know.
Okay, so you don't have a belief as to what, if anything, dictates what is. Then
Correct.
is that correct?
Yeah.
Then you don't have a reason for anything. Then so then you cannot say that you are convinced by reason of anything, because in your view, and you correct me if you're wrong, in your view, there is nothing identifiable and defensible which dictates why anything is. Is that your view?
I mean, reason is circular because you have to use reason
That's
to
not an answer to
understand
my
reasoning.
question. That was an
Because
evasive
if you
response to my
choose
question.
not to, I understand what you're
See,
trying to ask,
you're
but
giving me an
you have to
evasive
actually let me get
response.
all of the thoughts out,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to be as concise as I can because it's a tricky subject.
Okay. You told me you're not convinced. The things that you are convinced of, is it by virtue of reason?
No, it'd be by virtue of evidence.
Okay. Evidence is that certain things stand in causal relations to other things. Do you believe that things stand in causal relations to other things arbitrarily or by reason?
Well, I'd have to use reason to come to that conclusion, and that's circular.
Okay. So the bottom line here is this: you have no fundamental grounds to believe in anything, do you?
Only what convinces me.
Okay. Yeah, you see, do you see your pattern of responses that you're giving to me?
Yeah, you're
How
asking about philosophy, and
you're making a
philosophy.
pretense, you're making a pretense that you're answering my questions with your words, but you're not really answering my question. My questions are not trick questions and they're not loaded questions, but you are not directly answering the question. The bottom line here is this: you say, I want to be convinced of God. Okay? Now, what convinced you of the not God world that you're operating from? What convinced you of that?
That would go back to when I prayed to God and didn't get answers. And that might not convince you as being enough, but it was enough for me for the time of my life that I was in.
Okay, so God can, right now, you correct me if I'm wrong, right now, God, as the creator, can exist if and only if he answers your prayers.
No,
Is that
that's not what I said at all.
okay? Okay, so you believe that the not God world is true right now because
Because I'm not convinced of God, but I also don't know that God
you're
doesn't exist.
restating you are restating the same claim. You're not answering the question. Your position, you have a positive belief in the not God world because you don't have a positive belief in the God world. Now, I want a substantive answer. What is your positive reason to believe that the not God world is true?
I answered you why I wasn't convinced. I told you that when I prayed, I did not receive the answers that I was
That's
expecting.
a non
And that was enough
sequitur.
to,
That's a non.
no, it's answering your
Do you
question
hold
through
to
my
that? Do
experience.
you hold to that now?
I still hold to the experience of my life, yes.
No, that's not an answer to a question. Do you see your pattern of behavior again? You're giving me evasive responses. Do you hold to the position right now that God does not exist because your prayers in the past or in the present have not been answered?
Yes,
Okay. How does that necessarily follow that if a creator God existed, he would necessarily answer your prayers? Do you have a defense of that?
it doesn't. That's the funny thing, but it's enough to convince me.
You see, you're completely sidestepping my question again. Do you have a defense that if a creator God did exist, then necessarily he would answer your prayers?
I said no.
Okay, so then that is not a rational defense of the not God world.
That's incorrect. The rational defense is when you have evidence to support it.
Okay, yeah, what you're giving me is another form of atheist sloganism. Okay,
I'm okay with
now,
that.
uh, yeah, but atheist sloganism is non-informative. All right, now when
I'm
you
sorry
say
you don't like my
evidence,
skepticism.
is evidence for things real in your not God world?
Yes,
Okay, is there something that imposes the causal principle?
I don't know.
So, do you have evidence that there is something that imposes the causal principle?
Do I need it?
Yes.
I disagree. If I drop a
Yes, you
rock
do, because
and I rely on gravity, I don't need
you told
to
me
praise to
you need
gravity
evidence
before
for
it works.
things. You see, you know what? I'm done with you. You're such a deceptive person. You
Because you're
shoot your
dishonest,
mouth off.
Darth.
You're
Go ahead and
vulgar.
boot me because
No,
I won't tell you how old I
no,
am.
I'm not dishonest. That's another form of dishonesty. You accusing me of dishonesty is dishonest. I want you to tell me right now, how have I been dishonest with you?
Because as much as you want to say that you don't ask loaded questions, you ask loaded questions.
What is a loaded question?
A loaded question is when you ask someone, when did you stop beating your wife?
Okay. What premise in any question that I asked you was illegitimate?
I'm not saying they're not illegitimate questions. You can ask a loaded
You
question.
told
You're
me that
just
I
not
asked
going
you
to get
loaded
an accurate
questions.
answer.
Did I give you any loaded questions today?
All of them.
Name it.
Okay, goodbye.
All these bros chatting around.
Bye-bye.